what would really help the people in Taiwan is if the overseas Chinese could just make a short clip video, just like say, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm from New York, and I'd like to appeal to the Trump administration to support holding a new election and to support freedom of speech and freedom of press in Taiwan. And I'd like to lend my support to the people in Taiwan and let them know that they're not alone.
各位朋友，你好，我是史东。在3月底，在3月28号这天呢，在台湾有一件事情呢，引起了很多人的注意。在3月28号这天呢，有2个 video 上传到YouTube。这2个 video 其中有一个是有关于2020年中华民国总统大选的一些调查的结果。这个 video 呢，在2天之内就得到了168000个点击，将近17万个点击。那么在这2天之后呢，在3月30号这一天呢，中华民国的刑警呢就找上他的门来，然后在没有拘票、在没有传票的情况之下呢，把他带到了刑警大队去侦讯。他们的要求是要求这位先生呢要把这2个 video 呢，这2个视讯呢下架，否则的话他们这个威胁呢要起诉。在侦讯大队那边待了2个钟头之后呢，这位先生他离开了，他同意了这个刑警大队的要求。那么今天的节目中，我们为您请到了就是这位被逮捕上传的这个 video 然后被逮捕的这位先生，他的英文名字叫做 Jason Lee， 他现在人在台湾接受我们的访问。我们现在就把 Jason Lee 呢先带进我们的画面之中。Jason, thank you very much for coming to the show.
Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your background?
I was born and raised in LA, and I got introduced to Taiwan politics through the election observation tour provided by the, that time it's called Overseas Chinese Affairs Commission, 侨委会. Yeah, back then. So I took a trip with the Citizens League, and that's when I started doing filming and documentary type work for Taiwan politics.
What year was it?
2004.
2004. So that was quite some time ago, isn't it? That's when the 319, the 319枪击案 started.
Yeah, I was in Taiwan for that, and yeah, it wasn't just that incident. It was like that entire week was all very dramatic for me. It was a big eye opener, and then when I went back a few days after the election, I was just not the same person
really?
anymore. Yeah.
What struck you so hard? What makes you want to be not just a bystander, but you wanted to be actually involved and do your own share of investigation?
Well, I went from being someone who was very very naive and supportive of everything I saw that was going on, and then by the time I went home after seeing and hearing what had happened or what allegedly happened, I just wasn't, I just felt I had been duped, and that what the government had presented to us was probably not the truth. And so I went home, and I think, it was a depressing experience. And so after that, there were a lot of in Stanford and Berkeley at that time, the Bay Area. I was living in San Francisco at that time. There were a lot of events, like not press conferences, but just like discussion meetings for professors that were familiar with Taiwan. And so I started going to those and filming those. And after a long period of time, I just had a lot of video, too much video regarding the 2004 election.
One would ask, what makes you so, you have a flag in the back of your wall, you hung there, that really shows your feeling towards ROC. And could you explain that?
I guess you could say that in my family, I grew up with my grandmother, and she would tell me about her days back in managing with as a civil servant working with the government, and she just told me all her stories. So I just grew up listening to those stories. Yeah, I guess you could say that was sort of like my indoctrination as a kid, but I didn't know too much about the current day Taiwan politics back in 2004. I kind of learned it from the Pan Green point of view. As an adult, I actually came from that point of view. But my parents, my family didn't really say too much to me. I mean, I think I am very influenced by my grandmother. But as far as like what I've learned, like so-called facts in history, that was stuff that I read about as an adult. Mm-hmm. Later. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But at first I was introduced to it by that tour, and it got me interested. So I read up on all the history and stuff. So.
What does your family or your parents say about your experience?
Oh no, don't tell them. They don't know yet. They got their hands full with the COVID-19, so they don't need to have additional worries.
Let's get back to the subject from 2019 to 2020 elections. Let's talk about this video that you uploaded to YouTube. How did you get started in putting this video together? I understand you're not the one who put it together, or could you tell us a little bit the background about that?
In 2019, I had pretty much by then mostly lost interest in Taiwan politics. I was focusing on business, and I didn't want to be involved in politics anymore. So I really wasn't paying too much attention to the campaign. But because of my background, my experience with 2004, I was still looking for some indication from the government if whether or not the election would be held on legitimate terms, I guess you could say. So like in April of last year, I saw the news that they had appointed the Li Jingyong as Central Election Commissioner, and there were complaints about that, and I kind of gathered that something was going to happen. However, the opinion polls starting in June 2019, when the Hong Kong protests began, that's all indicated that's when Hangui really started to lose support. And then after that, I just kind of tuned out because I figured if he's losing support, then it doesn't matter who the Central Election Commissioner, is. So he's just going to lose just fairly. But however, he's continued to draw very large crowds to his rallies, which kind of confused me. So I wasn't sure what to believe. Okay. So, but I didn't go to any rallies for either side. I think I just went to just Jane Song's rally because it was close to my house, Now, so how this all started with the videos and stuff is on the day of the election, I just went to some nearby voting stations in a school and just started filming. And I didn't think I really filmed anything, but later on, when some of my video and most of the videos found on the internet actually. So like when you put it all together, it just like became clear what had happened, But that took a lot of time, and the truth is that I didn't figure it out. Most of what you see in that video was not figured out by me. I just provided some of it, and that's what happened.
So how much time to put it all together?
It took them maybe a couple months.
Are those your friends to begin with, or they became your friends after this project?
Just the truth is I don't know them well. It's just
right.
there's an online community of people sharing videos that we don't even know each other. I have all these people on my line that I may have met once, mm-hmm. and just people emailing each other. I just can't keep track of who is who. And the best way to describe the origin of this video is that it's the public really united to create this video. Mm-hmm. The source of the video is definitely not from one source. I mean, I have seen most of those videos on the internet before. It's just that they were put together.
What makes you decide you want to upload this video?
Why not? It's it's what anyone with a YouTube account would want, because just upload it and see what happens. And unfortunately, I got more than I bargained for.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever think about what you're trying to accomplish by uploading these 2 videos?
I saw it as just spreading awareness. When I put the video up, I knew that it was a good video, and that it was probably the most comprehensive video out there. It was sensational for sure. To be honest, I was concerned that maybe people wouldn't care, because it had been 2 months since the election, and that people would just look at it and be like, okay, well, that's old news. But much to my surprise, the video really blew up. Like, people were forwarding it like crazy, because I just would remember, like, it would get 10,000 views very quickly. I would just be talking to people for an hour, and then an hour later it would just go by 10,000 or so. Like, in the first 24 hours was really crazy. And I believe it would have gotten to probably 200,000 very easily by the next day if I was home that night, and I regret not going out to see a movie that night. So yeah. How
much your life has changed since then?
I don't think my life's changed. I think I'm just I'm getting some attention, but I don't think it's changed my life.
Mm-hmm. Have it changed your own outlook of what you wish to accomplish in the near future, in the far future, or anything like that?
Well, I guess the main thing for me that's changed is before it happened, I was mostly concerned with just the truth of the election. Okay. But then since it's happened, the election fairness is still my main concern. But a secondary issue has come up where I'm just really concerned about the government's actions towards trying to silence people from talking about the election, because at the very least, you have to at least let people give their point of view, say, like, this is what I think happened, and if you don't agree with that, that's fine. You can ignore it or whatever. Like, that's what I thought was normal. But you see, if you look back at the Taiwan government's actions, you can see that this was basically planned by her administration. Passing the Anti-Infiltration Act a couple weeks before the election, and which includes the Social Order Maintenance Act, and which means that you can't spread disinformation. So what's disinformation? Anyone talking about election fraud in Taiwan. So they were specifically targeting this issue. They're afraid of people talking about election fraud. But that's why these 2 acts are being used against the public, like all of the public, not just people who post YouTube videos. It could just be anyone forwarding information through line. My understanding is that there was a video passed around that said the Central Election Commission would rig the election. Now, that's a prediction. No one knows if that was actually going to happen, but they were specifically going after people forwarding that video. Okay. So, and then I posted this video, which, a good portion of it is accusing the Central Election Commission of sending out staff deliberately to rig this election. So, and I got a knock or a ring 2 days later. So if you put this all together, you can clearly see that the issue of tackling fake news and disinformation is to go after whistleblowing towards the Central Election Commission. This is what they don't want people to know, obviously.
Have you received any kind of support from opposition party?
No, absolutely not.
Unfortunately, that's kind of expected too. Could you bring us back, because the topic today I select is from 319 to 2020 election. Take us back. This is where you begin this I would call it investigation or research of how the DDP handled the presidential elections. Could you take us back to 319 and tell us what you have found and share with us?
Okay, so, well, the story goes back to at least 2000. But back then, of course, I wasn't around. I wasn't, I had no understanding of this. But I believe that the manipulation, you could say, of these elections started before 2004. It wasn't the first time. And once I started looking into the 2004 election, and I started interviewing people, I started to learn more about what happened in 2000, what allegedly happened in 2000. Now, I can't, I'm not the authority on that election, but there was a book written by Dr. Gao Ziming about who collected a lot of information on how the fraud allegedly occurred in that election. Yeah, 2004 was just at least the third election you could say is which is in question. One interesting thing I learned is when I interviewed Dr. Ramon Myers of Stanford Hoover Institution, he told me that James Song Tsui had spoke to him privately about the 2000 election, and he complained about his ballots disappearing in the south of Taiwan, that he had campaigned heavily there, and then yet when the results came out, these ballots just simply disappeared. Like he basically was claiming that they just took his ballots. Like, not that people didn't vote for him, just that his ballots were stolen in the voting station. And this is something that James Song has not spoken up about too loudly. But if you look at the video from the 2004, the Pan Blue campaign headquarters right after the election results came out, his wife Chen Wanshui said, "We need to secure the ballots because we can't let them cheat us again." She didn't explain what do you mean by again, but my interpretation is that she's referring to 2000. She's saying we were cheated in 2000 and they've done it to us again. And there was also an election in between 2000 and 2004 that many people believe was rigged also, and that's 2001 Taipei County Commissioner. That one I've done no research on, so I don't know how true that is. But you see, the city and county election that takes place, like the midterm elections, is also very important because it gives whoever has control of that city or county will be able to assign the staff for the presidential election. So obviously Taipei County, being the largest county, was critical for the DPP party to hold on to. And we found in the 2004 election a lot of problems in Taipei County. Yeah. I mean, there's problems all over Taiwan in that election, but Taipei County is I call it like a breeding ground. Like, it's just infested, with just a lot of opportunities because to do this sort of thing.
Is that fair to say that almost all elections are rigged in Taiwan?
No. I can give you a list of the that I'm aware of. Most of them are legitimate. The presidential elections that are in question are 2000, 2004, and 2020, obviously. Now, there's some complaint about 2012, the Ma Ying-jeou's re-election. I haven't looked into that. I want to one day, but when those accusations came forward, there was no lawsuit, and I didn't hear any details from the Pan-Green side of it, but I did notice that. But they also said that in 2008, so I'm not really sure what to believe. I didn't think it was necessary for anyone to cheat in 2008. It was very clear what was going to happen. And for local elections, it would be 2001 Taipei County, 2006 Kaohsiung City, and 2018 Taipei City.
People might have a question right now. Say, Jason, are you doing this for financial reasons, or what is your motivations for this?
I just like to know the truth. As I've experienced in looking into elections, it's easy for me to tell when something is happening, even if I'm not currently that interested. But once I hear word, then I just I can't help but spend a lot of time on it. Start to find out things, and I start talking to people, and people kind of look at me funny, and they're like going, "I think you're a bit nuts." And I go, well, it's actually, if you look at how many elections we have in Taiwan, I would say most of them are legitimate. 6 out of all of those elections for 20 years is actually a small percentage, but 3 out of 6 presidential elections is 50%. So that's a lot, and that's not it's not a one-time thing, and it's very concerning.
The fact that you just mentioned Myers, Professor Myers at Stanford, that indicates to me you have put a lot of effort in interviewing a lot of people in your investigation. Tell us a little bit about that. How much effort you put in?
From 2004 to 2006, I interviewed a lot of people, mostly in California and in Taiwan. And I also interviewed the guy who did the exit poll for the 2004 election in New York. And I found out a lot about that, not necessarily directly from him, but from the poll center that worked with him. Since then, I just kind of stopped. Like once Ma Ying-jeou got into office, I've just been kind of tuned out. I became more of a normal person. I did look into the 319 incident quite a bit. And back in the States, I did some testing on the same windshield. I bought 2 windshields in San Diego, and we tested it in a shooting range. I had to learn a little bit about ballistics in order to understand that case better. And, came to just a simple conclusion, which was included in one of the 2 videos that was taken down. So on the second video, the people kind of forget about the second video because it's outdated. It's from 2004. To me, that was like, although I did not write and direct that video either, but some video that I took was used in that video. When I had to make that private, that was, to me, that was like 16 years of, I mean, I'm not saying I was researching it for 16 years, but it's just for the past 16 years, I've been involved with that case. And for that video to go private was just sort of like, something really comprehensive had been put together, albeit the final edit and the writing wasn't done by me. But just for that to go private is just like, was very disappointing for me. Because if you look at the past 16 years, it's like I've been, really working hard in that case. Because it was connected with 2020, then it just sort of got thrown in there as public information that was breaking the law in Taiwan, and I had to take that down also. I mean, it's been reposted by someone else, but it's not on my channel, And my principle is if I put something out that has some of my own video in it, then I want it to be on my own channel at least. I mean, if someone else can use my video, it's fine. But, who knows? I might put together something else that has my own video. And if they have a problem with that too, then we'll have to deal with these videos one by one, Because right now, legally, I only agreed to take down those 2 videos.
You mentioned you interviewed somebody about exit poll. My understanding is from United Nations, when they go out and observe a election, their rule of thumb is that if the exit poll from the actual election result, if the delta exceeds 4%, that to them is an indication of election fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of that?
No.
No, okay. I wonder if elections in Taiwan, do they do exit poll at all?
As far as I know, there was only one comprehensive exit poll ever done in Taiwan. There hasn't been one since because they're not welcome. Not because they're illegal, because if the DPP is in power, they don't like that sort of thing being done, especially if they might not have enough support. If they have more support than KMT currently at that time, I'm sure they wouldn't be against it. But if their support is on the low side, then they don't welcome that sort of thing. And back in 2004, the Chen Shui-bian government gave TVBS a lot of pressure over it to stop the exit poll.
And what about this election on 2020?
There's no exit.
There's no exit poll. Okay. Could you draw a commonality or similarity between the 319 to the election of 2020? Is there anything that you can conclude, that you can share with us what is going on there?
Wait, before we get into that, can I finish giving you the details of the exit poll?
Absolutely.
Okay. So my understanding of the exit poll is that it was done very comprehensively, just 150 stations. The night before the election, after the 319 incident occurred, it was leaked that the Li and camp was still ahead by 5 to 6 points, 5 to 6 percentage points. So what happened was that they thought they were still going to win, and they said, go ahead with the election the next day. Don't delay it or whatever, because we got overseas Chinese coming in to vote and stuff like that. And then the next day happened, and then suddenly they lost by 30,000 ballots or so. And the exit poll, TVBS had agreed to not release the official results. So because it might create a riot or something. That was the reasoning. So there's a very important anecdote that things that happened before the election. So people like to talk about what happened on the election, but I like to talk about what took place before the election, the preparations made by the Chen Shui-bian government. So I told you already, they put a lot of pressure on the TV station from many channels, like not just the executive yuan, but just many parts of the government were putting pressure on the TV station not to do this exit poll. But finally, the TV station was going to go ahead with it anyway. They had paid for it. They had trained their college students, and they're like, it's not illegal, And finally, the police captain, or some like head of police, I don't know what his position was, like called the poll director in and threatened him, just don't do this. Just like something's going to happen to you. Something's going to happen to this TV station. And the poll director was like, well, why? Like, this is not illegal. And the police captain said, well, the election is very, very close. So if you release something that doesn't match with the official results, you could cause a riot. And then his response was that the election wasn't close. The Li and Song were ahead by 1.5 million ballots. It's not a close election. And the police captain started wondering why is he receiving orders from up top to stop the exit poll when the election is actually not close? Because he was told the election was close, and he was just like, okay, so we'll make a compromise. You can do the exit poll, but your students have to stand back a certain distance from the polling stations, and you can still do it. So you can see in 2004 that there was actually some internal pushback against the Chen Shui-bian administration. That administration did not have as much control over the government as the Taiwan government does today. So it's like they're same mentality, but different capability. And also the media back then in 2004 was only partially controlled or compromised by the Chen Shui-bian government. They didn't have full control. So there was still way more voices coming out of the media, and it was harder for them to do things. However, in 2020, you can just see there's very, very little resistance from the media. They've basically, surrendered to the Taiwan government, especially after the election. So the results came out 6 points. Li and Song were ahead by 6 points, the exit poll. And Matovsky in New York told TVBS Poll Center, he said, it's 100%. You can declare who won the election. Because they took 3 sets of data, early morning, 8 to 10, late morning, 10 to 12, and early afternoon. And from his point of view, the data came out approximately 53-47 in all 3 sets. So for him, due to the consistency of the data, he said it was good. Now, of course, Matovsky is in New York, so he doesn't know if the data was collected properly or not. But if it was collected improperly by these college students, he would know, because it wouldn't be consistently 53-47. And so what I'm saying is that you could say, well, maybe how do you know that the exit poll wasn't biased, but people just Pan Green supporters didn't like TVBS or whatever? And yeah, of course, all these things are possible. However, if any of those things occurred, it would have been noticeable in the raw data. Like, it wouldn't have been 53-47. If DPP supporters simply didn't want to respond to the poll, it would have been far more biased. It would have been like 60% in favor of Li and Zan, but it actually came out fairly close, 53-47. And so he said, just declare. And then they didn't declare it. They just declared 53-47, but they didn't say which was which, because that was their promise their implicit promise to the government that they wouldn't say who was 53, who was 47. And then the official results came out, and this created, as I wasn't there, but this created a bit of an internal stir inside the TV station. Like, they didn't know what to do, you know. So I don't know exactly what happened. I'm speculating because I did talk to the people in the media back then, not just TBS, but also 年代 era. They have their own polling center. And I don't have proof of this. I don't have confirmation. No one ever told this to me. But basically, I feel that they were compelled by the government after the election to make the poll on March 19th not 6 points or 5 points. They made it almost 50-50. This was, when people say this poll is real or it's fake, they're not really understanding how complex this can be. A poll, an opinion poll done by a poll center, can be real on certain days. It can be fake on another day. So what I'm saying is there was only the ERA and TVBS put out real polls, but they were, I believe that they were compelled to change their polls on the very last day after the election, because the polls were not released to the public, but they do them. So since they saw the result, there was pressure from the government to say, okay, March 19th needs to be 50-50. And ERA 年代's polls, or their poll was just like almost matched with the official results, like exactly, like 0.22%, you know. And TBS wasn't like that. Theirs was like 39-30 versus 38 in favor of Lian, and which is within the standard deviation. So it's okay for Chen Shui-bian to win. But that's what I believe happened. There was high-level communication between the media and the presidential office over these poll centers and whether or not these poll directors could be agreeable to do this sort of thing. And in my opinion, they were not. I don't believe that the poll directors were not pan-green. I believe that they were forced to do these things. I'm aware of a meeting that took place between someone high up in the media and the presidential office, but it wasn't said like directly, but it was just asked, like, what is the political preference of the poll director? Why would the president ask this kind of question if he wasn't going to do something? You know, why would he need to know that information? So like it wasn't said why is he asking that question? But
you mean the then President Chen himself asking this question?